Siji, tell me one thing. How would you differentiate between how typically we respond to failures or setbacks in life versus how would a resilient individual look at this setback specifically, and what goes into the mind of a resilient leader as compared to somebody who's just typically a person who looks at the past or who blames himself or herself?
Absolutely. Very nice question. And I mean, yes, as you said, if there are certain people, like we say, why is it always happening to me?
Yeah.
It's repetitively happening to me. Probably there's a big lesson for you there. Probably you haven't learned it in the past. So you need to learn it and keep repeating to you unless and until you haven't learned
Yeah.
from it. So if I look at the resilient individuals, right, and across organizations at workplace, talk about anyone right from the front line to the C level executive, doesn't matter who, but we all need to demonstrate because that's our pathway to moving to the next levels very easily.
Okay.
But I could say it as A, B, C, D, E. When I say
Okay.
A, B, C, D, E, that's a beautiful model to look at. First and foremost, A stands for adversity. It's very important for each one of us to know what's the reason behind the pattern of thoughts that we have.
Okay.
We all have a pattern of thoughts, and we tend to think that the same way. It's like T. Harvaker says, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? So, what is that pattern that we typically have? What is that defines us typically? How is that we address or look at adversity? What happens typically when an adverse situation comes in front of me? How do I typically behave?
Right.
Right? I have a pattern when
Right.
something adverse is happening.
Right.
So the very first thing is that basically being aware about the pattern of your thoughts. As a resilient individual, I am more with that.
So you're saying that I will face adversity, but resilient individuals are those who are aware of what's happening to them when they are in that situation, how they
Absolutely.
behave, how they think, and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Being in a state of awareness, knowing what is the thought or the pattern of that thoughts that they are defined by. Because if you are in a state of awareness, you know a lot many things can happen.
Absolutely.
Right? The second one, as I said in the ABCD model, is the B, the beliefs, right? Uh, Once you talked about addressing what is your thought pattern, what are the unfavorable beliefs, is basically getting into the root of what caused that emotion.
Okay.
So we have an emotion attached to everything. As I say, emotion is energy in motion. So we have
Right.
an energy behind everything. It could be a positive one, it could be a negative one.
Right.
The belief is basically getting into seeing what exactly is the root of that emotion. It could be anything that comes in. So then I go to the second part of it, which is the C, the third part of it, which is the C, that's consequences. Understanding what could be the consequence of any emotion that I demonstrate, right? I know I'm coming with this particular emotion and it's a negative emotion.
Right.
If I know this is a negative emotion and I'm in a space where I'm really emotionally very vulnerable to a different aspect,
Hmm.
I could mess up the whole situation rather than take stock of it. I may lose control over it totally.
Right. Right.
So having that understanding of that consequence is very important.
So the consequence here is how I respond to that emotion,
Yes,
and what happens. What is the cost of that emotion, basically?
absolutely. So you
Okay.
have to be, as they say, think before you say it,
Right.
reflect before you talk. So it's so important that even before you respond, it's like
Hmm.
either you react or you respond, right? You
Right.
react at the spurge very impulsively, and
Right.
response is after a well thought after one, right?
Right.
And if you've thought after it, obviously you're not making a mistake. You are going to be in more control of that situation.
Right.
You have thought over it and then responded to it, right?
Right. Right.
Right. So then comes D, and D is for disputation. When is that you go ahead and challenge whatever is happening to you, learning to challenge yourself over what's
Yourself.
happening to you. Yeah.
Right.
Why? You, as you say, why? And then you would say, why not me? What am I learning out of it? What is
Right.
experience going to give me? How
Hmm.
is this going to create that space for me, which is going to be more empowering?
Right.
Give yourself that space. That's where you know your self esteem, self worth, your self confidence. Because if you doubt yourself, you will never get into that resilient space. If I can, I do that? I don't think I can.
Hmm.
Probably it's better to be low and sad. But no, I can I really refute it? Can I dispute it? Can I challenge the status quo? Can I get over it? And can I make a difference for myself? That's something that you need to challenge yourself every moment that
Right.
comes.
So I think That is so powerful, right? Instead of looking at and spending your energy in what's happened, you're really asking yourself, what can I learn from this, right? Or how can I change for who I want to be or what I want to do in life?
Absolutely.
So that is extremely powerful.
And, and the last one, that's E, that's energization. So
Okay.
every time there's something that's happening, I know this has happened to me. It could have happened to me in the past, but do
Mhm.
I have a technique to handle it differently this time
Okay.
so that I can be in a better empowered space?
Right.
So looking
Right.
for innovative, effective sources of action.
Right.
What action could make this more better?
Okay.
This,
So can you give some examples of how? So because you said innovative, right? I'm sure it'll be different for all people. The way I energize myself may be very different from the way you do. But in your experience, what are some of the innovative ways in which people have come up, right, for energizing themselves?
one very simple, very effective tool that I found with a lot many C-level executives is they all keep journals.
Okay.
Yeah, and if they keep registering on that the day-to-day activities, and
Okay.
once they have reflected on it, they
Hmm.
find that they get an answer out of it any which ways. How,
Right.
if a similar instance happened, how do I deal with it the next time? And they
Hmm.
get a little more better to handle it more smartly the next time. It
Right.
happens with all of us, right? So many times we deal with it the way we deal, and in hindsight we feel, oh God, I could have done a better job by saying this or
Right.
doing this or responding to it like this. A very powerful tool that most of them use is that journaling. And a journaling is an activity where you sit by yourself, go through the whole day, understand what could you have done differently, how
Differently.
could you have made the experience a little more powerful, empowering for yourself and for the people around you.
Right.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So let me do a quick recap. So adversity is A, belief is B, consequences is C, disputation is D, and energizing is E.
Absolutely. Brilliant.
Superb.